Houston Cougars, a furious comeback to knock off Duke and advance to the national championship game.
Here is Zion Chris, big hole, open sesame. Zion Chris, wow, the 72-yard house call.
Stick it in your pipe and smoke it, baby. Yes!
Welcome to the Scott Home Podcast. We have, at long last, made it to the end of the Cougar sports calendar. Talking this week about NCAA Outdoors, which is the annual curtain closer. It's not the curtain closer of the season because you still have the College World Series in Omaha occurring after the Outdoor Championship, but it has been before our lifetimes, Bobby, that a Cougar baseball team has gone to Omaha, and this year is no exception to that, as you well know if you followed that program. So, as it has quite often been the last decade or so that we have done this show, we're ending the Cougar athletic season talking about NCAA Outdoors. Plenty of off-season stuff to talk about as well. Some football recruiting, some transfer movement from some spring sports. We've got a head coaching opening that we're going to dive into as well that may have broken during our last podcast. Buddy, how are we doing this week?
Good, man. Super excited to talk some Cougar sports. We're going to talk anytime you get to talk about a national championship event, it's always fun. And like you said, it may not be the official closing of NCAA athletics, but yeah, it is for us because our baseball team is certainly existing this past season. So yeah, really excited to talk national championships with you a little bit and go over just some small little things that have happened in the athletic department as we wind down and kind of get ready for a little bit of a break heading into the summer.
Yeah, it's kind of a grab bag of a news week as well. We have also on the agenda talk about a certain infamous Texas Tech quarterback who unfortunately, his news story does very clearly intersect with your Houston Cougar football team, making it kind of an unavoidable topic in a week like this one, where we'll say we've got some things we're excited to talk about, but we can't put it on the back burner because we have this high volume of news.
Yeah, we have 8 sports to talk about.
Yeah,
and we need to.
It's not an 8 sports to talk about kind of week, and it's newsworthy at this point. We're going to talk about it, even if that subject makes me almost physically angry to talk about. Bobby, does not make me physically angry to talk about is the lovely people that support the Scott Holland podcast on Patreon. That's patreon.com/shpodcast. If you support the work that we do, you're not just supporting the internet's longest running Houston Cougar podcast, but you also got access to our men's basketball premium react episode that we did last week. Finally taking a full look at the 2026-27 roster, what we think it's going to be good at, who are the new faces, who are the returning faces, and what we want to see out of those returning faces. Well, talk for about an hour about a subject near and dear to all of our hearts, which I think is very much worth a few discretionary dollars a month to support the work that we do. If any of that sounds good, please go to patreon.com/shpodcast, and it costs you $0 to give us a 5-star review. We would appreciate very much if you did that, if you haven't done so already, on your podcast app of choice, because it definitely does help us out. So we'll kick it off this week with, I think, our 3rd in 4 episodes, Bobby, of interviewing a Houston Cougar head coach. It was our first time talking with this guy, but was really excited to talk to him, get to kind of preview the Outdoor Track and Field Championship, but get to know a bit more about him. Somebody who's been a part of this program as an athlete, assistant coach, and now the director of track and field for a very long time. I know you and I both very much enjoyed talking to him. So let's hear Bobby and I talking to Will Blackburn, your director of Cougar Track and Field, about NCAA Outdoors and all things around Cougar Track and Field. We're very excited to welcome on for the first time Houston Cougar Director of Track and Field, longtime Cougar coach, alumnus of our fair university, Will Blackburn. Thank you so much for joining us here today on the Scott Holland Podcast.
Well, guys, thanks for having me. This is exciting news, so thanks for having me today.
So we have NCAA Outdoors coming up here next week. We wanted to ask you kind of a big picture question here to lead off. I remember going to watch U of H at Outdoors for multiple days in Austin when they were holding it there in 2019 and really being blown away by the sheer volume of all the incredible athletes competing all at once. As somebody who's coached in the sport a while now, has been to a lot of these, what are your favorite things about the NCAA Outdoor experience?
Well, first of all, it's really hard to get there. So if you make this meet, you have to be one of the best in the country. And track every year is getting harder and harder. It's getting faster. People are jumping farther. They're throwing farther. They're jumping, higher. So to get to this meet and to time it up and have a good amount of kids going to this national championship, first of all, is for them, we try to make this is the highest achievement you can make in college athletics, and it is. So for us, it's the excitement of kind of getting guys ready. The next excitement is, okay, let's calm it down. Let's get to Eugene. Let's get ready to go. This is not a normal meet, but it's a normal meet. We treat it the same way. Get kids ready to go to hopefully do the best they can at the NCAA championships. But it's the pure excitement, if that makes sense. I mean, it's not easy getting here. And you got to think these kids started all the way back in September 9th or 10th, their first practice for the year. And we haven't slowed down all year long. So we're more of an outdoor team, so this is kind of the expectations for us to have a good amount of kids at the national championships outdoors. So, we're excited, and I think that's the main key of right now, at least.
So, how has your appreciation of this event changed from when you were earlier in your coaching career as an assistant for Coach Burrell, as compared to now as the person who is in charge of overseeing the entire program?
We've been second, we've been third, we've been fourth at the NCAA championships. 2 years ago, we were sixth in the country. We missed out by 3 or 4 points to have a chance to win it. So those things have never changed. Our goals are still to try to win a national championship, try to be top 10 at the nationals, try to always be try to get a chance to win the outdoor championships in the Big 12 as well. It hasn't changed the mentality of what our focus is as a program. Our focus is still, our goal is to try to win a national championship. In this climate, it's a lot harder. It's NIL, it's revenue sharing, there's more scholarships. So it's not pretty much a difference between then and now based on what our objectives are. But the only thing that's different is right now we're battling the two aspects that we have to overcome just like everybody else is, the NIL side and the revenue sharing.
We'll go a little more focused now on the event itself and some of the Cougar athletes competing there. Two of your throwers, Cleo Ajapong and CJ Wokeji, had strong performances at the NCAA West preliminary round after maybe not having their best days the previous meet at Big 12 Outdoors.
Nope.
As a coach, how do you mentally prepare an athlete who still has a chance to compete at the highest stage, but maybe is coming off a tough performance?
I mean, each one's different. I mean, you have to look at each athlete different and kind of how they work. It's not a blanket, waiver for all kids. So, with one athlete, we have to put a little bit more focus to. We have to talk to a lot more. We have to kind of really go over the event a little bit more. The other one is just kind of mainly keeping that person relaxed and giving them encouragement that said it will come. During big championship meets, the Big 12, both of them did not do that well. They both fouled out. But at the same time they both had really big fouls. So you look at this and you leave that meet and you focus on, okay, hey, look, we had big fouls. We could have won both. We could have won both the men and women's shot in the Big 12. We did not, but we could have. But the next step is to put that behind you, focus on this week in practice. Let's get to the championship and get over that hump. As a coach, you do worry about that a little bit because if an athlete has a bad meet, then they have another bad meet. It's a little bit harder on their mental side. But in this case, both of them overcame it. They took the challenge upon themselves. They did not compete the way they wanted to at the Big 12, and they walked in the regional and said, nope, we're going to make it. We're going to get the nationals. And in many ways, that's a higher achievement than just making the national meet, if that makes sense. They overcame a struggle at that level, could have really affected them. And for them to make that adjustment and be able to rise to the occasion, that was a big deal for both of them in the program. It says, okay, at this point, it gives them the confidence. It says, okay, hey, I might have a bad throw or I might foul out, but I can handle this. I did it before at the regional meet. I did it before at conference. And it's just a teaching moment. You really got to teach them constantly, of how to overcome it. and you got to spend time with it. John does a good job with that as well as their coach.
So you were a thrower in your days competing for U of H and have coached the throwing event athletes since becoming coach. We've always kind of been curious how the mental preparation is different for an athlete or athletes in a big conference meet in NCAA outdoors, where there's a semifinal and a final, something like the sprints or hurdles, something like that, versus the events, those throwing events where you just have a final, your throws, your jumps, things like that.
I mean, you try your best to, number one, don't let the athlete think of it that way. As a program, we don't think of it that way. We think of this as another competition. So we try to make our home meet, the NCAA championships, the regional meet, all the same. The difference is in most cases we're a little fresher at those big meets because we're adjusting our training based on that meet. But mentally wise, you try your best just to keep it the same. We're doing the same thing we always do. We're going to compete. We're going to focus on the technique. We're going to focus on the rhythm. And that rhythm will get the outcome. The problem sometimes with kids and anything you do is they seek a time, they seek a mark, they seek this. But in most cases, if you just do what you do, be who you are, do what averagely you do on a daily basis, if you're good enough, you're going to make that championship no matter what. So we try not to change it up too much. We try to keep the same mentality, same climate, same culture the entire time. And in some ways, we try to die that down because you are going to a national championship. So the nerves are higher. But if you look at across the board, the kids that walk in the meet and they just consistently do what they're supposed to do, most of them don't have to do great things. They think they have to be beyond their PR. In most cases, you don't have to do that because other people are going to fall out and other people are going to stress and they're going to start doing things they don't normally do. But if you go to that meet, you do the same thing consistently that you do at every other meet, you have a better chance and odds of making that championship, if that makes sense. You don't have to go big all the time. The prelims at the NCAA championships itself, it's a little harder because everybody's running, everybody's fresh. The final just kind of sees where it is. So
something we like to ask coaches who competed at the Division I level, or collegiate level generally, you've got to compete and coach at this university for roughly 30 years. What was something that you look back on from your career competing for the Cougs that really had a big impact on you going into coaching after?
Coach Tellez and Kyle Tellez. I mean, I came in and I didn't know where I was going to go. I thought I was going to play football at high school, and I did track that year and was pretty good at it. I wasn't great, but I had a big improvement from my junior senior year. Never thought I'd do track in college. Just fell in love with the sport, and came in and talked to Coach Tellez in the office. And once I sat down with him, he was telling me, "This is what you're doing wrong. This is what you got to fix. These are things you have to do to be good and great." And literally leaving that office, I'm like, okay, this is the guy. I want to go here. And then got injured my freshman year, had back surgery, and kind of had to spend 2 years in the training room. And at that point, I just shifted over and started hanging out with Coach Tellez on a daily basis, trying to learn as much as I could about track and field. And that was in 95, 96. So it was during the games. So we had all these Olympians on the track. So to experience something like that was just an unbelievable level. Did I know I was going to coach track at that time? No. I just loved being around Coach Tellez. I loved learning, and that was the biggest change of my life was him, just as a coach, just knowing that, hey, this is about technique, this is about learning, this is about the athletes, this is about the program, and I can't see having a better mentor between him as a coach when I was an athlete, and then having Coach Burrell as a head coach and a mentor as well later down the line. It was really lucky and really special to do that, to be a part of that.
So we've talked some here about NCAA outdoors and the athletes competing there, but I just kind of wanted to ask, with the season finished now for a number of your athletes, who are some of the athletes who didn't make it to outdoors, but who really improved the most in your eyes from the beginning of the season to their last meet?
I mean, I think Ty Lott in the throws did a good job. He came in, he got hurt. He was doing really, really well. He got injured. He fell down and actually had to have surgery on his wrist back in October. We thought for sure that there was no way he was going to be able to come back for indoors. Sat down the doctors. He got a surgery. He's rehabbed really hard. Came back and became school record holder in the weight throw indoors, and then was school record holder in the outdoors. So he did a real good job, and he made nationals and not nationals, made regionals first round. And I think he learned. It was his first time there, but I think overall he's done a really good job of kind of understanding that. Sydney, our girl thrower, ended up second in the shot in the Big 12, and that was not a shocker, but to come in as a true sophomore to do that was really special. Cheyenne Hall, our triple jumper, she jumped 39 feet in high school. She jumped 43 feet, so she has a good chance to make the World Junior team this year. You look at Dominic Harper came in from North Carolina. He ended up running 20. What did he run today? I wrote it down. He ran 20 point low, and he ran 44 in the split at the relay. And out of high school, when we signed him, he wasn't any at that level, So he's come in and done a great job and has a good shot to do the same thing at the national championships this year. So, but a lot of our kids come in and improve. So we're a program that takes a lot of developmental kids. Okay, we take high school kids. We live a little bit in the portal, but most time we sign high school kids, so we develop them, and they just got to come in here and really learn. So if you kind of look at a true freshman coming in, our whole main goal is to teach them how to run correctly, how to throw correctly, how to jump correctly. It's technique. And we really don't know what's going to happen that first year. Some kids will excel tremendously. Some kids, it takes a little bit of time to kind of get them to understand, because Coach Lewis is going to really teach them how to push out of the blocks correctly, push off the ground. And when you do these things, it feels slower. So, the athletes really have to come in and really trust the program and trust the method. And it's going to take some time, And I think Bradley Lohman, he came in and trying to learn how to long jump correctly. He was one of the best long jumpers out of high school. And when we signed him, it's like, dude, it's going to take you a year to figure this out. It's really hard. I mean, the long jump is hard. And came in, he got 6 at the conference championships in outdoors and had a good PR for himself. But that didn't come over time. That took him 9 months to get there. Some kids it takes 2 or 3 months. Some cases it takes 2 years. So overall, we're proud of a lot of our kids, especially the freshman kids. I think we had 6 or 7 kids score at the Big 12s as true freshmen. And in this conference, it's really hard because in most cases, you have a better chance of making the first round of nationals than you are scoring in the Big 12. So
I really enjoyed talking to you, Coach. We have one more big picture question, one more little picture NCAA outdoor question for you. Since the summer of 2022, you've held the title of Director of Track and Field. You mentioned Coach Lewis has held the title of Head Coach. How would you describe, in kind of general terms as you want, your role in overseeing the program, what you do for university?
So, a lot. But we're here for the athletes, okay? So me and Carl, we see eye to eye on so many things. And we've been together since, as a team since we came on staff, I think 2013. But overall, all our staff right now works together. And on our side, it's kind of a weird thing how to say it, but we simultaneously work together to build this team, if that makes sense. So sometimes I'm kind of the behind the scenes guy, making sure everything's working correctly and handling all the issues, and why he's coaching more than I am. But overall, the main goal is to make sure these athletes are taken care of and that we're moving this university and this program to the highest level we possibly can. And it's been a joy. It's been an honor. It's been fun. Not many people could say they've been at a program since they were in high school. I mean, since college. So I've been here since '95. So I've seen a whole lot. But we're building a lot. We're doing a lot of good things. Facility upgrades are coming. We're really pursuing really, really hard, and we're working extremely hard to get this program to keep that level of success of top 10 at nationals every year. And I think in time our goal is to win the Big 12. We want to do that on the men's side. Women's side, we still got a little ways to go, but we're going to get there. So we got a good team.
All right, so last question here, Coach. Decent chance you have some Cougar fans listening to this who haven't watched the track and field meet, or maybe the most they've watched is a clip or a highlight from U of H's track social media. You don't have to sell the two of us because we're going to be watching every event, but tell some of these Cougar fans listening why they should tune in to ESPN or ESPN2 for the awesome event, obviously besides supporting some of these hardworking athletes.
Well, I mean, look at Louis. Louis won the national championships in the 100 2 years ago. He was not supposed to win that. Everybody was shocked when he came in. He won the regional meet, he won the Big 12, won regionals, and turned around and won the national championships and was a bronze medalist. You got to remember, in the sprint side of things, we had 2 medalists with Louis and Sean 2 years ago. So it's always going to be excitement in the sprints. But the cool part about this one is we got 2 throwers as well. You have a 4x1 team that is last year was 3rd at nationals. We won that before. So if you're going to watch that 100, watch the 4x1, and if you can pull in and watch a shot put, because these are the events our kids are in, and it's really exciting. The 4x4 is exciting, and the moment you kind of just sit down and watch it just for a little bit and see the excitement and see how great these student athletes are, you'll get involved, and you'll get kind of sucked into it, So the good part about the national championships is like 2 hours versus like 8 hours at a normal meet. So, find it online, check us out. And at the end of the day, think about it, guys. You have the greatest track and field athlete of all times as the head coach. And for him to spend his time every day up here with these athletes, making them better and giving back to the university, giving back to the sport, he doesn't have to do that at all. All right. He does that because he loves the athletes and he loves the university. So, as a fan or as a Cougar, man, support our kids, support our program, because, we're one of the most highly successful programs here historically at Houston, and we're going to continue to move that direction and be successful. But, it's pretty amazing. If you just have one person that sees an athlete on our team and says, hey, great job, or knows their name, man, it lights them up. So, we're not on TV, we're not football, we're not basketball. But as many supporters we can have to support our athletes, to support our student athletes, that's just what we really want. And it really makes them extremely happy at the end of the day, going, man, they knew who I was. They watched me on TV or they watched me on the social media. So we ask all the Cougs out there and fans, support us, please, because, this is a staff that's been working really hard. We support our university. We care about this place. And we just want you guys to do the same. And if you do it just one time, come to an indoor meet one time, you'll be like, okay, I'm coming back. So.
Yeah, I was talking with you before we got on air. Just like, it is a bucket list thing for me to get out to Hayward. Won't be there this year, but want to be there in the next few years to see y'all compete. And couldn't have said it better as a reason to watch what you said very accurately. One of the best programs in this athletic department, year in, year out. Coach Blackburn, very generous to your time. Really appreciate talking Cougar track and field with you. And good luck to you and all the athletes and coaches in Eugene.
All right, man. We'll see you in Eugene. Hopefully next year or the year after that.
So it's really great to have Coach Blackburn on the pod, Coug through and through, and somebody who certainly got the two of us fired up for what is, as I said earlier, our annual curtain closer event of the athletics year, the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships in Eugene, Oregon. I think right before you joined the call, Bobby, I was telling Coach Blackburn how I may or may not have tried to see if Hayward Field, Oregon's unbelievable track stadium, host of this event, had an unlocked gate so I could walk around inside there while I was visiting Eugene for the Cougar men's basketball roadie we had there about 4 years ago. Sadly, I was not able to find a way in, but I cannot overstate what a gorgeous setting that is for one of those really, really cool college athletic events. And as a watching experience too, I can say obviously there's not a Coug in every event because frankly, even the very best teams in the sport aren't representing in every event or even that close to it. But my favorite part of it from attending in person when they had it in Austin in 2019, when Dustin and I went out there, is you go from like the 4x100 hurdles to something very different, like the steeplechase. I actually went back and looked at the run of events because I remembered going from 4x1 to the steeplechase. Like, these are two, like, other than running on a track, these are two extremely different things. And then you go from that back to the short hurdles, all while you have the field events going on in a different part of the same stadium, which when Dustin and I were out there, we popped over and we watched the jump some because U of H that year was especially strong in the men's and women's jumps. I mean, the same thing applies on TV. You could pop in for one of the Cougs events, then you maybe marble at the people running a distance event or a field event or something like that. To me, it scratches the same itch as Summer Olympics track does for, I'm sure, myself and plenty of my fellow Americans every 4 years, with athletes who will absolutely be representing their respective countries down the line. I mean, 2 years ago, Coach Blackburn mentioned you had Sean Maswanyani representing South Africa and Louis Inchlev representing England right after representing the Cougars at NCAA Outdoors that very same year as the Paris Olympics. I mean, in that 2019 Outdoors I just referenced, we saw Grant Holloway and Mondo Duplantis compete for Florida and LSU respectively. Bobby, those two guys were gold medalists in the events I saw them in. Holloway was the gold medalist at Paris in the 110 hurdles, and Duplantis in the pole vault competing for Sweden at the last Summer Olympics. You're not just going to see great U of H athletes representing the school at the highest level. You'll see that and a number of future Olympians. And like I said a moment ago, you might even see an overlap between those two categories. That's my pitch to you, Bobby. Not that I have to sell you too hard on watching, but that's my pitch to you, is my pitch to listeners. You're not just going to see great Cougars. You are going to see great Cougars alongside a number of future Olympians and just people not just competing at the highest levels of collegiate track and field. Like, these will be some of the fastest times, some of the best field performances on earth this year at this event.
Yeah, it's even if you don't, if you don't want to watch just for the Cougs, it's one of the better events just to kind of have on and just have in the background while you do things around your
Bingo.
house, right? Are you cooking dinner? Turn it up, and that 11 seconds that the men's 100 is going to take place, it's just cool to have it on. If you're not into steeplechase, like Sam said, I just pulled the sport out there that takes a long time. Like, you just have it on as you do laundry or unload the dishwasher or do anything like that, and you just look up and there's always action going on. There's always something happening, even if it doesn't involve a Coug. Just a great throw on, just have it as a background noise, and just, oh, Houston. And then you kind of hear U of H mentioned, the Cleo Ajapong throwing from Houston. You're like, oh, wait, let's actually watch her throw, that kind of thing. It's a great opportunity to do that, even if you are, it's a great second screen sport to just kind of have on. Maybe you're watching the NBA Finals or something, or probably not. Maybe you're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't know why anyone would want to watch that.
Maybe you're watching one of Texas's 2 sub 500 Major League Baseball teams. Hey, I dissed my team there. I threw my team in there too.
I can't be mad. You could have that on.
Frankly, you should probably be watching the Cougs
should be on first,
or the Rangers. Again, being equal opportunity to both of our baseball teams here. So I'll remind you all of who's competing and in what. Quick reminder on format: the field events. So your jumps, your throws, just have kind of a multi-round final event on one of the days, whereas your sprints, your relays, your general running events, basically everything shorter than the 10K. They'll have a semifinal on one day, and then 2 days later, we'll have their finals with the athletes who qualified out of the semis, with the exception of the multi-event athletes, your decathlon and heptathlon athletes. The men will be competing on Wednesday and Friday of this week, the women on Thursday and Saturday, so that covers your 4 days of the event. Like I said, here's your rundown of the Cougar athletes and relays who will be representing the program in Eugene. I tried to go in roughly the order they'll happen. The first athletes to take the track for this program will actually be the Cougar men's 4x100 relays, competing in their semifinals after winning the event in Big 12 Outdoors, running the third fastest time among all competing teams at West Prelims. No surprise, a familiar face in Leroy Burrell and the Auburn Tigers will be the event favorites. I looked this up, Bobby. Auburn has 2 of the 3 fastest times in the 4x100 this entire season. Their B relay ran the 3rd fastest time in the country, and their A1 ran the 1st. And both ran it this current month. It's not like, they had one relay, like their best relay ran it back in March, but someone got hurt or forms dropped off, whatever. No, they're 2 of the top 3, and they're also doing quite well. But I would still not at all be surprised if we see the Cougars both in the finals and competing for a podium place. I don't know if winning it is as realistic, but you could absolutely see this group in the finals. They really have been running well these last few meets. Shortly after the 4x100 runs in the semis, you will have CJ Wokeji representing in the men's shot put finals. Wokeji did a great job shaking off a poor Big 12 Outdoor Championship performance, qualified out of the NCAA West prelims a couple weeks ago, currently has the 9th best performance in the shot put this outdoor season. That was from the Camberwell Invitational at the end of April. This will be Wokeji's first outdoor championship in his college career as a junior. You also have Louis Inchliff, 1/4 of your 4x100 relay, representing the Cougars in the 100-meter dash, which will have its event semifinals on Wednesday evening, about 90 minutes after the 4x100 semis start. Inchliff didn't run in a ton of different meets this season, which shouldn't be too surprising coming off some injury struggles in the last 12 to 18 months, but really came on strong in the final month plus of the season. Ran the fastest time in the 100 at NCAA West prelims, finishing narrowly second also at Big 12 Outdoors behind Arizona's Mason Lawyer, who will be one of those athletes competing with Inchliff. I think to make the finals, I wouldn't be fooled by the fact that he currently has only the 10th fastest time in the 100 this season. He's running his best right now, should be taken seriously as a threat to win the whole thing. I would say as a guy who the last time he was here about 24 months ago won the whole damn thing. And I remember, like, he was a good sprinter. He was someone we were definitely keeping an eye on going into the meet. But I think if you'd asked us before the 24 outdoors, hey guys, like, a Cougar is going to win the 100, and you probably would have said, I probably would have said Sean Mastroianni, and it ended up being Louis. So a guy who already has one national championship level performance in his career at this place, peaking at the right time of the year. Again, not that there aren't other guys who are absolutely going to be very difficult to beat here, but would not be surprised to see him standing on the podium, even standing on the top of the podium, even with some very worthy opponents. Closing the night on Wednesday for all the men's events, we have the men's 4x400 relay. One of the bigger surprises, maybe the biggest surprise of all the people who qualified for Eugene, young relay that's really starting to have some of its best performances down the stretch this season. I think I mentioned it last week, but 3 of the 4 athletes running this relay are sophomores. And exciting to have so much youth from a group that will, at minimum, get valuable experience, whatever happens in Eugene. I think if this group can qualify for the finals in any form or fashion, that'll be a massive success for this trip to Eugene. Your lone Cougar women's athlete representing the team will be on Thursday, Cleo Ajapong in the women's shot put. Like the men's 4x400, fair to say Ajapong has longer odds to be close to the point scoring places here when it's all said and done, but also like the 4x400 relay, she's a sophomore, and just by making here to her first NCAA Outdoor Championship has accomplished a heck of a lot. Like Wokeji, also a cool story because she punched her ticket to outdoors out of West prelims after not doing so hot at the Big 12 outdoor meet. The first Cougar competing on Friday will be Andrea Mita in the men's high jump. This will be Mita's second NCAA Outdoor Championships. Went last year, finished 13th in the high jump finals. Also has gone to the last 2 NCAA Indoor Championships, finished, I believe, 7th this year and 8th in 2025. Actually won Big 12 Outdoors in the high jump 2 meets ago now. From that performance, is currently tied for the 3rd best in the country this season. He's the highest performer among all athletes in relays coming into outdoors. Will be an interesting one to watch. He's got stiff competition from SEC Outdoor Champion Kamani Jack from UGA, who also is the top performer in the country this season, and also freshman Gage Voiles from Kennesaw State, who had the top performance coming out of NCAA East prelims. Also on Friday, depending on who does or doesn't qualify, you have the event finals for the 4x100 and 4x400 relays, as well as the men's 100 meter. Nothing on Saturday because Cleo Ajapong is participating in a 1-day only final women's shot put. So 4-day competition, but 3 days for your Cougars outdoors. As I've said a few times now, starts Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Central, though the 4x400 will be closing the evening on ESPN Plus later in the evening, but I encourage you stay up for that one if you can. Friday's events will also be on ESPN Plus with the 4x100 kicking off that day a little after 7 p.m. Central. So that's all the outdoor stuff to watch, Bobby. I hope I've got everyone prepped for the curtain closer this season.
Yeah, no, that was a great preview. I think the thing that really caught my eye as I was continuing to, do research on the national championships and stuff is this feels like a foundation year with Ajapong and that 4x4. Getting to experience Eugene, like this is going to be one of those things you remember as a little bit of a turning point where those 4x4 runners, maybe with going to Eugene, they increase their or lower their times in other sprinting events. Ajapong gets to take back and talk to other field people about, or other field athletes about what it takes to get here. Really young team going to the national championships, which is really exciting. Like you said, Hinchcliffe has a chance to win the whole thing, as does the 4x1. Not saying the 4x4 doesn't, like you said, but probably long shots. Ajapong probably a little bit of a long shot. If you're gonna tune into one thing, I think watching the 100 meters is gonna be super exciting. And then you want to say U of H in the 4x1 would be a favorite, but the 4x1 is very much one of those crazy things. It's like the NCAA tournament where, yeah, you may be the faster team, but anything can happen in the 4x1. So, just some exciting stuff. And like I said, a little bit of a foundation heading into next year and a couple of seasons down the road.
Yeah, a lot of athletes who could potentially be coming back. And in the case of the 4x1 and Louis, I think one final hurrah for a lot of very good athletes there.
Yep.
We will also return to a topic we discussed last week, at least briefly, because it broke literally as we recorded our previous podcast, and that was the announcement that Houston Cougar men's golf coach and director of golf, Jonathan Dismuke, would be retiring from college coaching to take a job in the private sector. We figured, now that we've had some time to digest this news, look at candidates and what have you, we take a look at who potentially could take this job, reflect on the career of Dismuke a little, because longest tenured sports head coach when he retired. So, Bobby, you're our golf guy. You've had some time to do the research. Give me the best candidates out there you think will be under consideration to take the Cougar men's golf head coaching job.
Yeah, so the person I thought might be the favorite heading into it, this, but before I do that, I'm just going to kind of introduce the job a little bit. This is a different job than the women's coach job is. I think the women's team is very well established, a very, very good team. Coach Lasprilla showed what you can do with this job, even with the resources not being where you see them in other places. Whereas the men's team is ranked, finished ranked around 60th in the country, made the tournament, didn't, looked good in a regional, but just kind of looked like a tournament team, not a team that can go to those national championships like you saw with Coach Lasprilla. So I think you're in a little bit different situation. I think with the women's job, you probably have a chance to get a sitting head coach from a regional power around us, at a lower level, some of those people that we discussed. Whereas I think the men's team, there's a couple of things going on here. Number one, I don't think it's in as good of a shape as the women's team was, like I said, so that doesn't draw as much interest. And then all the schools in the region just aren't very good, or they're so good that you're probably not taking their head coach, right? So, do you go after the UTEP or the North Texas head coach that is ranked 20 spots below where you currently are? Maybe. But I think getting an assistant at a power job might be what you're looking for in this job. And the person I thought was really well qualified that has been with the program before, Matt Fast. He was an assistant coach here for 2 years. He went to Texas A&M. We found out a couple of hours ago that he was promoted to associate head coach of the Texas A&M golf team. So we may have gotten him a bit of a promotion, even if he wasn't actually considered. And that does hurt a little bit that the associate head coach job at A&M is more exciting than possibly the U of H head coach job. But A&M's a very, very good team, and if you continue to do well there, you might be able to write your next place and just pick wherever you want to go. So yeah, that I don't even know if there was interest, but that does tell me that at least a phone call was made to an agent or, someone's representative. It may not have gotten very far, but at least hey, they're looking at me, and A&M
You'd think
goes,
a former
"All right,
assistant
we'll
would be at least on the short list, who's a
Right.
assistant at a big program.
Exactly. So a couple of other candidates that I just kind of looked around the region, and I looked about, where people were ranked and things like that, and who's had success kind of in the region, who's had success recruiting overseas. And I would say the coach I really like the most, and I don't know if you can get him just based on rankings and success that he's had, is going to be Blaine Woodruff, the current head coach at Tennessee Chattanooga. He just won the SoCon this year, made it to the NCAA championship, so made it in that top 30 teams to advance. So really exciting there. He was an assistant at Pepperdine, where they won a national championship and had a bunch of very, very good golfers, including Sahith Theegala, who, if you follow the PGA Tour, is a very, very good young golfer. Sahith's caddy is actually his another assistant coach from over at Pepperdine. So left Pepperdine to take the head coaching job at Tennessee Chattanooga. When you look at his final rankings of teams, you have 41 and 40 with Chattanooga, and then 80 and 66. So you kind of graduate that senior class, you move on and go there. Made a regional, obviously made it to the NCAA championships. Just really exciting, nice young coach that I think would fit in very well here at U of H. And then next up is going to be Donnie Darr, who is a longtime assistant at Oklahoma State. He's been there for 3 years, former head coach at Ohio State, and before that was an assistant at Oklahoma State. Whenever you look at Oklahoma State, they're a consistent power in men's golf. And really, when Donnie leaves and comes back, they usually get really good when Donnie starts to come back. So, just an assistant who has former head coaching experience. Maybe you can convince him to leave Oklahoma State. I don't know if you can, because it seems like he leaves, then comes back, leaves, comes back. So maybe you get him and convince him to leave one more time. I'd really love to see that from U of H, at least kick the tires on Donnie Dar. And then finally, a name that I don't know if he will get hired. It's a little bit of a shot in the dark, but James Vargas, just another name to look at, assistant coach at Texas Tech. He's the associate head coach over there. He was the assistant coach at UNT, did very good there, got a promotion up to Texas Tech, bigger job, bigger opportunity there. Now the question is this his next step in his career? Is it a big jump to Big 12 competition, or does he go back to UNT and maybe take the job there or something like that, or a job of that caliber? So, Sam, those are the three that I think caught my attention, and then obviously with Coach Fast not re-signing as the assistant or the associate head coach at Texas A&M.
Yeah, I think the Chattanooga coach really intrigues me. It almost seems like a parallel, and you could tell me if you think I'm off on this, but obviously some things don't exactly line up. But to me, it kind of feels like the UNLV head coach that we were talking about for the women's opening, in that at a smaller conference program, but in a pretty good situation there, does he jump for, a job in a bigger conference? And the U of H job has good things about it, but it is not a premier job. It's not a hard job. It is somewhere, I think, in between hard job and premier job, like somewhere here in the middle. Do you think that's a good assessment of it?
To be honest, I would say that's pretty much where all of our sports programs are, besides men's basketball. You're not going to be a premier program, right? Football, you're not a top 10 spender, top 10 job or anything like that. But you definitely have better opportunities at U of H than you have at a lot of places.
For some of the Olympic sports, I wonder sometimes, like, hey, if it's a good situation, it's just like, okay. And maybe I'm biased by the fact that it's not related, but it relates. I don't know if you saw Spain was in Chattanooga for their pre-World Cup training here. And I'll just say this, man, Chattanooga looks beautiful. And I had no idea.
I had a friend who went, and she was like, actually, I had a pretty good time.
Rolling green hills, river. I looked at that. I was like, that actually looks really beautiful. Yeah. I'm not saying that's why he is or isn't leaving there, but I think back to my original point, it's like, okay, is it a good, stable situation where he's like, I don't want to leave this to take on, again, will be an upgrade in terms of conference competition, a job that has good things about it. But I think that would be my first call if it was me.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I had it. I think the favorite for the job, if I was just guessing, because the hard thing is we don't know what Coach Nunez is looking for in a coach, right? Is he willing to hire a sitting assistant or anything like that?
Because we were told for the women's, they're really prioritizing head coaches.
Yes. For women's, we have heard that from some people in the know. Is that the same case with the men's team? I don't necessarily know that, but I do think if I were doing it, I'd look at the Tennessee Chattanooga coach. But don't be surprised if Donnie Dar gets the job if he decides to take it. So I think if it were me, it'd probably be one of those two guys. I really like what Dar has done when he goes back to Oklahoma State. Not that Oklahoma State ever sucks, but you kind of see their spikes in competing for national championships when he gets there.
Worth also reflecting on Dismuke's almost 2 decades in charge of Cougar men's golf, because obviously this is a program with a ton of history when you look at it cumulatively. I mean, for cumulative program success over its history, I don't think U of H has a better program than men's golf.
No.
I think you can make an argument for men's track and field historically, for some of the Olympians you produced and stuff like that. But for team titles, for professionals produced, you can't do a lot better than Cougar men's golf for all the
19 national titles, man.
19 national titles, man. But between the tenure of the guy responsible for those, legendary U of H head coach Dave Williams, and Dismuke taking over, U of H really had to hit a rough patch. Hadn't qualified for the NCAA as a team the final 3 seasons under your last head coach, Vince Jarrett. Dismuke changed that. U of H was back in the NCAA as a team by his 3rd season in charge. Not only got this program back to being annual in the NCAAs, but you had that 3-year stretch from 2014 through 2016 where the Cougars advanced the NCAA championships each year. I would say your best run as a program this century. And in the 3 years that Dismuke oversaw his program in the Big 12, Cougars also advanced the NCAAs all 3 of those seasons, finished in the top half at the conference championships in 24 and 25. And in the most general terms, we talk about wanting coaches to leave the program better than how they found it. And I agree with your initial assessment that men's golf isn't where women's golf is right now, where Lydia Lesprilla was leaving while the program was at a historic high. But I also don't think it's debatable that Dismuke did anything but leave this better than he found it. I think like the women's like the women's program, there are structural challenges. You don't have a convenient on-campus facility like many other Big 12 programs likely won't in the foreseeable future. But as I said earlier, this isn't a hard job either, because Houston, you are ideally positioned for good prep golfers coming out of the state, international golfers as well. Like this is, as we've seen in a lot of sports, a good place to recruit internationally. You're going to be doing a lot of that in men's golf. So Houston is an asset there in recruiting. It just doesn't necessarily close all the gaps that maybe some of the programs in your league that have their own nice on-campus course and nice on-campus course / facility have. Really don't begrudge Dismuke for wanting something that has a better work-life balance than college coaching. I mean, you and I both, I think, put a decent amount of hours into our day jobs, and we would probably be almost having to double that if we were doing college coaching, which I think about that now, and man, imagining just not having free time, also like having a family like Dismuke has. Totally get it, man. Totally get why you would want to see your child grow up while not being able to spend much time with them because you're coaching a Division I men's golf program. I get it, man.
Yeah. So just one more kind of conversation for us to have about this was an interesting question you posed me is, will this come with the director of golf where you're kind of over both programs? If that it will have that title. I think when I initially responded, when you asked me this question, it was no, I don't think so. I do think it depends on who you hire, right? If you hire a longtime guy, a longtime assistant like Donnie Dar, who's been an assistant coach at a big program like Oklahoma State, where they do men's and women's in their top tier in both of those. He was head coach at Ohio State. Maybe he knows what that takes and you give it to him. But, you hire the Tennessee Chattanooga coach and maybe he doesn't quite have that experience and you don't want to give it to him, or Vargas at Texas Tech, you don't want to give him that responsibility. But maybe somebody, if you hire a coach who's been around for a long time, I could see it happening, but I don't think it's necessarily going to happen that way.
I had another question for you. Just came to my mind while we were talking about this. Do you think there's any chance that U of H goes a little off the board and like hires someone who has been working like private's not the right word, but maybe like, I don't know, like a not tour pro. You know what I mean? Like hire someone who's not in college coaching. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
hire someone like in a senior role there who might not have your typical college coaching resume, but would be a good fit for the job in that way.
Yeah, I think you could see something like that getting the director of golf role. I don't know if as the head coach you're going to choose somebody unless they are like an elite coach who can bring you in good recruits. I think that's very much like the idea of that is something you could do, but it's like hiring that if you're going to do it, you're going to hire the AAU basketball coach that has, 5 stars on his roster who can connect with people. I think you're more and has connections in the junior game in the state and across the country. Maybe somebody who runs the PGA or something like that, but probably not if I had to guess. I think you're going to want a college coach. And what you see is like a lot of college coaches are still members of their PGA chapter, and like the UNLV coach on the women's side,
Yeah.
she's like the president of the PGA of America in Vegas, or the Southern Nevada chapter. Nevada, right? Or is it Nevada? Give me the right pronunciation.
It kills me because it's based on Nevar, which is, it was snowy. That was kind of the name of it should be
Okay.
Nevada, but Nevada. It is Nevada. I've been told emphatically
I will get that right eventually.
By locals
Nevada.
here in my home for the last 6 years of Vegas that it is Nevada. I've been corrected as such.
All right. Well, so yeah, I think maybe you get something like that, but more than likely, and you're seeing this less on the men's side, is they're members of the PGA, because that costs money and time, and you got to do continuing ed and that kind of stuff, and they're too busy recruiting. You've seen it on the women's side. A lot of them are PGA professionals and doing that, but on the men's side, it just really seems, especially at these higher tier programs like Oklahoma State and where Texas Tech finished this year, it just seems like a lot of them, you do want somebody who can, you look at like Coach Lasprilla, right? Somebody who had a lot of playing experience, but I don't think she was PGA certified at any point.
Makes sense. It was just something that came to my mind.
No, that's a great question. Yeah. That's a great question.
So we had a lot of transfer news this week, incomings and outgoings, mostly but not entirely in baseball. We have has a little Cougar tennis news going to mix in here, which we will discuss now here. Bobby, I'll start with the outgoing for baseball, if you don't mind.
Yeah, hit me.
At this point, pretty much almost everyone who is a serious projected returning player from this most recent team in 2026 has entered the portal. I think that it would be easier for me to just say that than list all the players. The only players who haven't, as of recording, that I would say meet the definition of projected returning player who actually saw a decent amount of action are infielder Jackson Lima, who just finished his sophomore season, junior Richie Roman, and junior Alex Solis. Also, outfielder McLean Helton, as a sophomore, was a part-time starter. Maybe include him in that group. I mean, not a surprise, really. I'd hope that maybe you could hold on to some of the more promising younger arms, Kendall Hoffman, Caleb Kimball, Connor Udland, Caden Cooper. But anytime a school makes a coaching change where the change generally occurred because there wasn't enough winning, you can assume there isn't going to be much roster holdover. And that's kind of the situation we're in right now with Cougar baseball. Not surprising, and I wouldn't even say disappointing that you weren't able to hold on to those arms. I think we talked about Kendall Hoffman even before the season was over. It's just like, man, I could see that guy developing into a good pitcher in our program and thinking, man, wish we could have had him while we were actually good at baseball. But I mean, if the cost here is that you made a coaching change that most of us agreed was long overdue, I don't think you can be too sorry about any of it.
Yeah, question. I very well could have missed this.
Mm-hmm.
Did Sabathia transfer out as well?
Sabathia was a senior, I believe.
Oh, duh. Sorry, my brain was. I was like, wait a minute, I didn't see that transfer. I forgot he was a senior because he came in on the transfer.
Yeah.
That's
Trey Broussard theoretically could return. He's a junior. I think he will be season performance, and he was already, even before the season, he was already a pretty highly rated prospect, and I don't think did anything this season to knock his draft stocks. I think he will not be coming back because he will be playing in someone's organization come the summer.
Yeah, I totally had a brain fart there. I was like, what? That's on me, guys. That's on me.
All good. Honestly, decent chance that I might have missed someone in there. Also in the past week, we've seen new head coach Will Davis and his staff add a number of new faces to the Cougar roster. Not done yet, but I would say the first serious push for players in the portal. We did mention last week that Lamar catcher Jake Wagner will be following Davis to U of H, and we had several other players commit since we last recorded. Shout out to my co-host here because I was out of pocket this weekend playing in a Padel tournament in San Diego, and I pretty much got the news of all of them committing as it happened. Thanks to you, my awesome co-host here, Bobby. Well,
I was working. Yeah. If my boss asked, I was working, not looking at Duarte tweet updates.
Exactly. It was definitely outside of your work hours. I don't know what your work hours are other than most general, but I definitely got them outside of work hours. If any of your bosses are listening. The two that intrigue me the most are a pair of lefty arms, Jacob Schultz from Vandy and Cooper Corcoran from New Mexico. We'll mention Schultz first. Competed the last 3 seasons at Vandy, did redshirt his first year, so maybe has 2 years of eligibility when it's all said and done with the Cougars. Had a 6.41 ERA and 19 2/3 innings pitched this past season for the Commodores. Strong strikeout numbers, but I think that ERA tells you he probably wasn't missing enough bats for the SEC level. Walk numbers were also a bit higher than ideal, but I think the swing and miss stuff is promising, and that the staff has a good track record at Lamar with pitchers harnessing guys who had the good swing and miss stuff but might need work in other areas. Also a homecoming, played his high school ball at Memorial in Houston. Also really intrigued by the guy I mentioned with Schultz, Cooper Corkery, played at Cinco Ranch, also at Galveston College. After that, shout out to the Whitecaps before playing last season at the University of New Mexico. 5.49 season ERA and good strikeout numbers in his first season of D1 ball. And I knew, Bobby, that Albuquerque, New Mexico is a notoriously tough place to pitch because of the wind and the dry air and elevation. UNLV out here has a similar problem in that just like the pitchers just get murdered because the ball flies here in this environment. Mm-hmm. Albuquerque is kind of a similar situation. I tested that theory by looking at his home road splits. Had a 7.13 ERA in home games in Albuquerque, 3.48 ERA in road games. Not to mention he was second, like that 5.49 ERA, not amazing, not terrible. Second in ERA among New Mexico pitchers who actually threw a significant amount of innings this year. I think it'll help him to be playing his home games at sea level, which again, I think was a big part of maybe his first D1 numbers, not looking amazing though. Again, first season of D1 ball, I don't think you could take too much of an issue with what he did here. Also really intrigued by Alex Yearwood, just finished his freshman season at Texas State. You see the 8.79 ERA, not great. Mm-hmm. You dig further though, 14 1/3 innings, not a huge volume there. So like one bad outing there can literally, for lack of a better word, can literally fuck your numbers the entire season when you're not pitching 25, 30 outings. And he had some really good ones in there. I mean, also 24 strikeouts in 14 1/3 innings. I'm willing to take a chance on a guy who has that level of swing and miss stuff in his first college season. And you look to the game by game, he also had some quality outings against good opponents too. He has scoreless inning of relief against A&M in the most recent NCAA regionals. Also had scoreless relief appearances against Wazoo and UT Austin, teams that made the postseason in his one season at Texas State as well. Obviously things to work on there. And that's kind of the theme you see of these pitchers we've gotten. Good swing and miss stuff, might need some work in other areas. But I mean, you talked about it when we hired Will Davis. Like his Lamar team's bread and butter was finding guys with promising stuff from other places. That their top star this year, Olivier, who regrettably does not have any more college eligibility after this season, was that kind of reclamation project. And I think you're now hoping to see that at the Big 12 level here at the University of Houston.
Yeah, that was the thing that stood out for me. One, you bring in five players, 4 pitchers. We said a lot of this season the problem was pitching. We didn't have a lot of pitching that was good. You pointed out very correctly. One, great job on the Cooper Corkery analysis there. What he did on the road, that's top-notch research by you there. Things I didn't even think about when I was doing it. But the big thing that stood out to me is the pitchers that you brought in. Their walk to strikeout ratio is very high and exactly what you're looking for. And the problem is they just were giving up runs. When they were hitting the zone, they were getting strikes or they were getting rocked. Like that just really seems like a thing that happened. And a problem we've had, I think you and I would both agree on this with our pitching the last, 4 years, is the inability to find the strike zone, just giving up free bases to other teams constantly. And that has been kind of a bugaboo for this team. And if we're going to start pounding the zone, maybe you can get a little bit more swing and miss stuff out of these pitchers. But a lot of guys who have kind of been hit hard have given up quite a few runs, but to their credit, are striking out a lot of guys. Like you said, Yearwood 24 strikeouts, in 14 innings. That's pretty good. So there's a lot of potential here. A lot of guys that you could really see doing well for you, and you like the stuff. Now, can they just stop getting hit so hard in inopportune times?
Yeah, you don't need all these guys to be projects you hit on, but if a couple of these guys, like the swing and miss stuff, which obviously that's a good starting point, you can get better at the other areas, and a couple of these guys end up being notably improved. Like I think it was something we lost faith in the last staff doing, because that was your best era of Cougar baseball under Todd Wooding, was actually kind of doing the opposite. Like you had pitchers, other than like exceptions, like Seth Romero being an exception there. He had the elite swing and miss stuff and the elite next level talent. But in that era, you just got guys who were kind of unsexy strike throwers.
Mhm.
I think now you're doing an opposite approach, and this approach didn't work under the last staff, but you will say, like, this pitching coach, Jace Hutchins, previously did quite well at this at Lamar. So I think that's the idea. TBD if it works, but I at least see the vision here. We'll say not a U of H commitment, but noting that Jared Williams, a freshman pitcher who we mentioned as someone we wanted potentially to follow Davis from Lamar here to U of H, is in the portal. Not a U of H commitment, not any news on where he's going as a recording, but just figured I'd note that while we were talking about baseball stuff.
Yep.
Also, a couple of Cougar tennis updates here. Yesterday morning, we got the official news that Petya Drame, who was a starter for the Cougs this past season, will be returning to the Cougar tennis program to compete under new head coach Valeria Zaliva. Drame was 10-5 in singles this past spring, mostly competing on court 5, and was 12-6 playing doubles with the now graduated Liza Morsova. Prior to last year, Drame was a starter for perennial mid-major power FIU for 2 seasons. Also played some for Slovenia's junior national team. Maybe a bit less of a tie to the previous staff, because Drame was with the program for only 1 season, but good to have back a player that was a critical part of what was a good team this most recent season. You still don't have an official word on the other 3 possible returnees, Eva Seppa, Valeria Kroatina, and Alexia Lavinia Pujac, but haven't seen anything either way on those athletes, whether they're transferring or not. The portal deadline is closed, but there's also a lot less info out there about, who is or isn't in the portal. All 3 of those athletes still have U of H tennis in their social media bio, so crossing my fingers, that means we eventually get word that some or all of them are returning to the Cougs. But I think what happens there is going to be your most major development on what the coming season's roster will look like, though I expect that you will still be going to the portal regardless, even if you have all of those athletes returning. You're still going to need to fill out the roster a little bit, even if you have all those projected returners back.
Yeah, but that is a big one to keep. I know you were excited to have her back.
Yeah, just knowing that you're not starting completely from scratch from what was a very good group last season. We also got the official news that Taylor Rogers will be joining the Cougar staff as the assistant coach. Most recently was the assistant at East Carolina for 2 seasons. Also worked as the second assistant coach at Texas A&M. He was Tennessee's director of operations, another really good SEC program, and was the men's and women's assistant as alma mater Abilene Christian. As well, like golf, U of H generally has generally has the head coach and 1 assistant. So I expect this to be the sum total of U of H's coaching staff. With Valeria Zaliva this coming season, I would imagine the connection here, I think like I told you, is that Rogers worked for Jordan Sabo, who was a longtime A&M assistant, is the Auburn head coach who Zaliva worked under. I would imagine that was the connection there. So probably Sabo could vouch for the guy, and that will be our staff, and that'll probably also help for filling out the roster, that you have both your head coach and assistant officially named there as well.
Yeah, just they're able to really cement in and start recruiting and working as a team, figuring out what they want there.
Yeah, when we talked with her 2 weeks ago now, she had been internationally I was talking to her at 7 a.m. and she was equally feeling the morning before we talked to her, because she had been internationally recruiting the night before. So I know she is very busy building this coming season's roster.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've also had enough activity on the Cougar football recruiting front that we figured we'd check in on the team's 2027 classes that started to shape up here in the early days of summer. You've had some official visit weekends and what have you. Going to give the same preface that we usually give for football recruiting talk. we're not recruiting guys here, which isn't to say that we don't think recruiting is important. Quite the opposite. It is vitally important. But I would say neither of us are really interested in the will they or won't they, or getting especially emotionally invested before signing day in the decisions of your average high school football athlete. I think the topic becomes an interesting one to us the moment these athletes officially sign on the dotted line to become Cougars, but figured since there's enough recruiting activity and enough time to discuss on tonight's episode that we would see what Willie Fritz and the staff have been up to with the 2027 recruiting class. Bobby, quick side note. How does it feel to be now officially 20 years removed from the high school
Why are
class
we doing
we're
this?
discussing?
Why are we doing this?
I had to deal
Why
with this
are we
last
doing
cycle.
this?
I had to deal with
Why
it
are we doing this
as a
right now?
2006 high school graduate. I definitely felt it when we were talking last year about the 2026 class. So I just wanted to check in as the younger member of this pod and see how you're dealing with that one.
Well, one of the guys that committed, his dad, it lists his dad on his 247 page, and it says former Missouri safety (parentheses 2010). I'm like, oh, okay. I want to die.
Man, I didn't see that. Oh,
to die. I want to die. No, you know, Father Time is undefeated. So
he is.
that's how I feel about this. Sometimes you're just gonna lose. You'll never win this game until they figure out the best drugs, and peptides apparently is what people are taking to feel young. So maybe I need to start doing a couple of peptides. And
Didn't think peptides would come up
figure
with
it
this
out
show,
from there.
but it's always a surprise when we both sit in front of the microphone and start talking with each other.
If we did a what is it? Ion College Basketball does it, the no context. If we did a no context,
Just have a picture of have a picture of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and also peptides. Since May 30th, Cougar football has gotten 6 commitments. You got 7 if you count an athlete who unfortunately decommitted within a week of committing to the Cougs. And you have 15 total in the 2027 class who are committed as of tonight, with, I'm sure, more commitments happening as we get later into the summer. So acknowledging everything we've acknowledged here so far, volatility of recruiting, and like I said, not truly counting on guys being part of the program until they sign on the dotted line late in the calendar year. Bobby, which recruit from this most recent group has caught your eye the most?
Yeah, so just like you said, I'll get to my guy here in a second, but I thought it was really interesting that you saw a bunch of pictures being taken from official visit weekend, and you saw a bunch of guys coming in on the official visit, and then all the commitments started to roll in, and you certainly see that. But that's not something that's not a rare thing to happen at like big programs. You see LSU does cupcakes or something crazy like that, and they post it, and then you look up and they get 7 or 8 recruits. And I'm not saying it didn't happen with the previous administration or the administration before that, but it just wasn't something you saw a lot of us doing. And really, more than any of the players that committed, it shows me that this staff is able to get the recruits excited to play for this program. Like, even if you don't believe that these kids are going to sign, and like you said, we already lost one a week later, something like that. Like, even if you are cautious about them signing with us, and actually, rather than taking the word of a 17-year-old, that's not always the best thing in the world to do. I think there's something to be said about them coming in for the official visit and the ability of the staff to get them excited to play for U of H. That if they're willing to commit, granted at the official visit, there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm sure there's pressure to commit there and things like that. You take all that aside, the ability to be able to do it and get them to actually say they're committed is exciting. Again, with the caveat that they may not even sign and they're still going to take official visits and things like that. Now, the recruit that kind of has me most excited out of that group is going to be Tavon Bolden. And you kind of see where he's at. He's not even a top 100 recruit in the state. He's not even a state top 100. He's outside the top 1,000 in the national rankings. He's not a top 100 safety or anything like that, but he's out of Atascocita. And you and I both know, having been U of H fans, that yes, stars don't always matter. What is it, like Case Keenum was a 3-star or 2-star, and he ended up being one of the greatest quarterbacks in program history. And so, yes, but also my argument is good teams always have 5-star recruits, right? Like, you think Ohio State's just not getting 5 stars? Like, they definitely are. But there's something to be said about that. But Tavon Bolden, everything about him doesn't scream like you should be excited about him when you look at his rankings and things like that. But I always say I look at other offers. Like, who else is offering this kid? You have us, who he committed to. He took an official a couple of days ago to Arizona State. They offered. Arkansas's offered. Iowa offered. Florida State offered. K-State offered. Kentucky's offered. Minnesota's offered. Oklahoma State's offered. Pittsburgh, Vanderbilt, Oregon State, UTSA, New Mexico, Texas State, UNLV. Like, you look at that top list, and those are teams that you are on the lower end of P4, right? You have Arkansas, new coach, new everything there, but I'm sure they have a great program going. Arizona State, really good Big 12 team. Florida State, not a great ACC team right now, but still a big name program. K-State, consistently good, just got a new head coach. Oklahoma State, we think Oklahoma State's going to be a solid program, and that the people running Arizona State, Arkansas, the new coaches at Oklahoma State, those are people who can identify really good talent. Now, I think if he has an Ohio State offer, something like that, Ohio State's not offering a 3-star guy, right? So you're looking at people that are on your level, and you certainly see that there. Maybe you're a little bit ahead of a school like an Arkansas right now, but we believe that that new Arkansas staff, that new Oklahoma State staff, the K-State staff, the Iowa staff, they're really good at identifying talent. And so the fact that he has all those commits really kind of gets you excited. He had 3 interceptions last year as a junior. Overall, not a position that I was like, oh man, we really need to bring some depth in or anything like that on. But 3 interceptions, a forced fumble, 3 tackles for loss from the safety position, 55 tackles in general. Really hard not to get excited, especially when you look at the other the other offers that he has.
I'm glad you mentioned the offer listing, because that I think is a through line to a lot of these commitments. Like, they're all about where, like, they aren't blowing you away, like, in terms of like where their ratings are right now, which, one, it's June. Like, there's a good chance that will change for a good chunk of these guys once you get to the final evaluation after their senior year, and probably in a lot of cases have signed with the Cougars. But I think pretty good offer lists across the board for the guys who have committed here, which I think is as good, if not a better indicator to look at than their actual rating here. My pick out of the most recent group of commits would be Gary Burney Jr. from Bossier City, Louisiana. High 3-star receiver, committed to the Cougs on the 30th of last month. 15 touchdowns, almost 18 yards per reception on a high volume of targets in his junior season. Last fall for Parkway High, was a track standout as well. Good offer list. Had offers from Cincy, Baylor, also Tulane and UTSA and South Florida, who've been good evaluating programs at the G6 level as well. To me, the school to watch here is LSU. Burney's got an interest from LSU, but not an offer from Lane Kiffin's staff, but will be taking official to LSU in 2 Fridays. So, yeah, I take it on faith that Willie Fritz and his staff knows what they're looking for in Louisiana recruiting specifically. Did it a bunch at Tulane when they were there. And it's kind of a tightrope to walk. You want recruits who are good enough that they'll be on LSU's radar, but also you sweat that a little bit because, I mean, if LSU actually gives them a committable offer, you're in an extremely tough head-to-head battle with a school that, candidly, I would imagine nearly all football players in the state grow up dreaming of playing for. Like, LSU has a monopoly on that more than just about any other SEC program out there. But, I mean, if the Cougs can hold on to Burney, to me, he seems to check so many of the boxes that you want. One, you want a big receiver who's fast, checks that box. But also a guy who's hungry enough as a high 3-star to come in here and do well. And we've seen over the years that level of guy in particular do well at receivers. That's why he was my pick. I know I'm surprising you by not going with Logan DeBose, the recent commit from my alma mater, St. Thomas High. Excited about him too, but Gary Burney was my pick of this most recent group of commitments.
Burney was going to be he was my second pick for somebody who caught my interest. Again, like you said, he's got that offer from Tulane, got an offer from Cincinnati, got an offer from Baylor. Maybe Baylor isn't the one you want evaluating talent right now, but like you said, LSU staff bringing him in a couple of weeks for that official. and don't be surprised if he gets an offer there possibly. And now you're trying to hold on, which hopefully you can.
Yeah, I was looking at their class and hoping that they had a couple 5-star receivers already in there. It's like, oh, okay, like, you know, maybe he sees that as like, yeah, I got an offer, but I'm behind some guys, but they don't. So sweating that a little bit, but again, it's a weird push pull there. Like you want the validation of, hey, like the big program in the state thinks this guy is good, and you don't feel too bad if that's a head to head you ultimately lose. Like you want to be going after guys who could conceivably be on their radar, but also you'd like it to be Cougars when it's all said and done. So, like I said, push pull there. Some thoughts on the 2027 class generally. No surprise, exclusively Texas and Louisiana commitments of the 15 guys so far in the class. 12 from the Lone Star State and the remaining 3 from Louisiana. 8 of your 12 Texas commits are from what I would call the greater Houston area, with the remaining several from kind of DFW Big Country and one from East Texas / Golden Triangle as well. And every head coach from now until the end of time for the football program is going to come in and say they want to focus on Houston, the state of Texas. Probably Louisiana is your top secondary place as well, given where Houston is geographically in the state. But you certainly cannot doubt Willie Fritz's sincerity and follow through. What you see from this class, what you've seen from the previous couple as well, that's the strategy they're taking here. I wanted to also mention, really my only other recruiting note here, the highest rated guy, because I wanted to find who's the highest rated guy in this class who is at least seriously considering U of H but hasn't committed yet. It sounds like that's Landon Williams-Callis from Randall High in Richmond. Borderline 5-star recruit running back, rushed for a little over 3,500 yards and 59 touchdowns last season. Currently the number 34 ranked player in the entire class of 2027 by 247 Sports. Not saying U of H is or isn't the favorite, but he took an OV last week. It sounds like he is giving U of H more than token consideration. I like what this team has in the short and long terms at running back, but certainly wouldn't mind having Williams-Callis and John Hebert potentially in that room for the future of the program.
Yeah, man, I'll never turn down a high 4-star, possible low end 5-star.
So get to our final topic. Brendan Sorsby, man who's been in the news a little bit here.
Yep.
These last couple of months. It's a topic I don't enjoy discussing, but one that I think we both agree is undeniably newsworthy to U of H. And that's the development this week that Texas Tech's presumed starting quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, against seemingly all logic and common sense, looking like he'll be able to get away with a self-imposed or school-imposed 2-game suspension thanks to a court ruling Monday morning, meaning that Tech's third game of the season, which is against our beloved Houston Cougars, will in all likelihood be Sorsby's controversial post-gambling revelations debut playing for Texas Tech. We've talked about it on the show before. I don't think we need to do a full explainer. We'll just say the facts as they are. Sorsby placed thousands of bets worth at least $90,000 from 2022 until early this year, including 40 on Indiana's football team when he was a member of that program. Those aren't facts that are in dispute, even by Sorsby's camp here. But Judge Ken Curry, unfortunately a U of H law grad, ruled on Monday morning that essentially Sorsby had the right to make the argument at a future trial, which almost certainly will be after the 2026 season gets played, and cited harm in him not playing and gave him a temporary injunction against the NCAA, which had ruled him ineligible to play until whenever this trial happens. As I said a moment ago, I think the odds are extraordinarily high that this trial will never happen, and this is just an effort by Sorsby's high-priced legal team to buy him the time to play this coming season at Texas Tech. There are appeals. The NCAA has indicated they'll appeal, but it sounds like the timeline on those is such that those would not be heard until, frankly, after this season. So, I mean, there's been talk. I mean, Big 12 athletic directors, some on the record, some off the record, have expressed very, very strong anger about an athlete who, it's not disputed, bet on his teams, which is one of those red lines that we have never seen an athlete do and then be able to play. I mean, it's been crossed here. And there've also been a lot of weasel words about Sorsby having gambling addiction. And the more I talk about those, the more they make my ears start to get hot. And that's not even me saying that there aren't people who are compulsively addicted to sports betting, especially among the 18 to 30 young men cohort, or me saying that Sorsby doesn't meet that definition. But there's some part of me that's very bothered by two things here, Bobby. One, the effort to frame Sorsby as remorseful about any of this. I mean, when transparently every part of him and his team's actions here have been cover your ass because you've been caught kind of stuff. And two, I don't know, man. Like, do we stop giving people consequences? Like, I mean, it's been brought as a mental health issue. Okay, acknowledging that. Plenty of things out there you can do and say, oh, well, it was because of this mental health thing that you still face consequences for. And I don't think fucking sitting out against Abilene Christian and Oregon State represents serious consequences here. I mean, that's the kind of suspension we used to see guys get for, you know, like, oh, he got like a minor in possession of alcohol, or they found like a joint on a traffic stop. I mean, this guy placed 40 bets on his team, including including unders on it. He placed unders on his own fucking team.
Yeah, and for me, the thing that kills me is betting on your own team. Like, you want to go to Reds games and bet all you want to, have at it. Betting on your own team, even if it's for them to win, has always been that line you'd never cross. No matter the sport, no matter the age, no matter anything. It's when you bet on your team, that's just kind of the line that you don't cross. Because even if you bet on them to win, right, it still interferes with the sanctity of the game. Because maybe you bet on them to win, right? But then you go and you tell the opposing cornerback that, hey, maybe, and how do we know he's just betting money line, right? Like, what if he's betting, over-unders? What if he was betting, if he bet on his team to win, how do we know he wasn't betting against the spread? Oh, since he's plus 14, so what I'm going to do, or is minus 14, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the other team's cornerback to drop the ball, so that we don't cover, right? Sure, he bet on his team to win, but at the end of the day, when you start to lose the faith that the outcomes are real and unpredictable, you lose sport and you become WWE. And look, I like WWE. I follow it. I don't watch it most of the time, but I'm on the subreddit, right? I'm on the Squared Circle subreddit. I know what's going on. I've always loved it. I loved it when I was a kid. I've watched it as an adult. I go to things if they're in town sometimes, like, but I also know that that's not, sorry if I'm ruining some kid who's listening on the radio right now, along with their parent. That's not, I understand that that's not a real outcome, right? John Cena didn't actually beat up The Rock, right? Like, I understand that. That may not be what's happening, but you can't bet on your own team. And I think one of the things that has given me pause is everyone blaming the NCAA for this. Like, get on social media, they're like, "Can you believe the NCAA didn't suspend him?" And it's like,
it makes my ears get, it's just a broken system, and it makes my ears get hot when I see Tech fans saying that.
But people are like, I can't believe the NCAA would let him get away with this. So the NCAA suspended the kids from Iowa State and Iowa for their whole season, and they weren't allowed to do this blah 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 anymore. And it's like, the NCAA tried to suspend him. The NCAA said, you're not playing anymore. And Sorsby whined to a judge. Like, irreparable harm? Like, because he's not going to get coaching from Texas Tech, so he won't be able to, like, no, that's just called a punishment for doing something wrong. That's just what that's called. If I got suspended from work myself because I didn't do my job properly, or I broke a rule that we're not supposed to do, I couldn't go, well, I'm not going to get a paycheck for 2 weeks. Like, no, that's kind of the whole thing. That's your punishment. So it's absurd. I do love the fact that it's going to be a Friday night game. If it does happen and he plays, it's going to be a Friday night game. Everyone's going to be watching, and everyone will bleed Cougar red that night.
You know what's kind of funny about this, Bobby? I think it's proving you right about Sorsby not being a serious quarterback. Follow me here. If he, in my opinion, if he was a serious quarterback prospect who thought he had a really good chance of playing professional football, in my opinion, he'd take the season-long suspension. Be as contrite as possible on the record, off the record to teams, use the time to actually really do what he needs to do in terms of no longer compulsively betting on sports instead of just doing in my opinion, transparently, I went to rehab. Totally covering your ass. Totally just covering your ass because you got caught. And use this to train for the next level. I don't have a lot of faith in things generally. This whole thing certainly hasn't given me more faith in things generally. I'm very confident he will be blackballed from the NFL draft process for this, even if he gets to play the majority of this season. Like, I don't think the NFL is going to let this guy get a serious chance to play in that league. All of these legal efforts, in my opinion, are an acknowledgement that Sorsby knows this season is his last one to make serious money playing football. That's my opinion here. That he knows that getting to play this season for Texas Tech for a team that, acknowledge it, like, should certainly be the favorite in the Big 12, that he is not a serious enough prospect, which has been your even before any of this broke, when we were kind of talking about Tech generally, was your opinion was, I don't see why this guy, not that he shouldn't be a decently rated transfer, I don't see why he was rated as one of the best transfers in the last cycle. Would you say that's summing up how you felt about it?
Yeah, I mean, I would honestly say I don't think he's a very good quarterback, let alone a serious prospect or anything like that. Like, he had sub 100 yards versus Utah.
He was 0-8 his last 2 Novembers at Cincinnati. That is factual.
Yeah, I think you can look at some of his running numbers and get kind of excited about them, but overall, I just don't think he throws the ball very well. I just don't.
Yeah. Piled stats against bad teams. I think I'm still a little higher on him than you, but I don't think
it's hard to be much lower on him than I am.
And the thing about this, man, there's not a comforting answer in all this. I mean, it'd be so much easier if I go on here and say, oh, we should go back to the way things were. But that's not a system I want either. Like, that's not something I want to go back to. So we're just in this place where everyone who doesn't have a cactus emoji and some indicator of Texas Tech fandom in their social media profile is just like staring at this and is just like, good God, how is this guy playing? But the people that actually have a power, the person who had the power to make a decision here is allowing him to play football. And that doesn't give me a lot of comfort for college sports, something I love dearly, something I'm not usually that precious about when it comes to, amateurism and stuff. But it's disheartening. I don't think I'm being overly dramatic in saying this is disheartening for people, or it should be disheartening for people that love the sport.
Yeah, like I said, my big problem is that he bet on his own team. I really can't describe how much I do not care that he bet. Like, even if it's
we'll say you were very, I wouldn't be advocating for a season-long suspension, but you were told in so many different ways that you were not allowed to. It's not like, oh, I can't believe it. Like, you were not allowed to bet if you were a college athlete, even if it's not your own team.
Absolutely. And I think that is correct. That is the rule. But also, I don't care until you bet on your own team. Like, I know it's the rule, and we can be like, well, rules are rules.
I wouldn't be advocating for a season-long suspension if it was simply betting and it didn't involve college sports.
Even if he didn't get any suspension for just betting on college sports or betting on sports in general. Like, I would understand if they had one, but I wouldn't be as outraged as I am about this.
Yeah, same. That's the unhappy way we're ending it tonight, Bobby, as it sometimes goes. Take us home, pal.
All right, well, that is it for this episode of the Scott and Holman podcast. We really do appreciate you listening. We have done almost 50 episodes this season, and it's been a ton of fun. I love coming in, talking Cougar sports with one of my best friends right here. So we appreciate you guys so much for listening to us. So we're not just screaming into the void, which we have no problem doing. We've done it before. We were at Hoffein's Pavilion. Oh, yes! That is a classic joke there. But if you do have any feedback for us, please reach out to us on social media. You can find us at on Twitter at SH Podcast. You can find us on Blue Sky at podcast.bsky.social. And if you really want us to pay attention to you, you can throw at least $5 a month at us on Patreon and go to patreon.com/SH Podcast. By the way, we will take more. Don't think that all you have to do is $5. You can do more. Trust me, you can do more. But also, we had mentioned this. Sometimes we mention it. Give us a 5-star rating on your podcast app of choice. We really appreciate it. It truly does help. I thought a lot of podcasts were full of it when they used to say that. But yeah, you move up rankings and people pay attention to you. So, Sam, I think I covered it all. If I didn't, sorry I missed it. But what do we always say here, buddy?
Go Cougs.
All right. Go Cougs! Let's go!